Hello and good evening. How are you all? You okay?
I am
Yeah,
doing good,
yeah.
brother. How are you two doing today?
I'm totally great. Thank you for coming on to the live show. We totally appreciate you taking your time and coming on. We're just going to wait for a few people to come and tune in, and then we'll get cracking. Um, Sorry about this, on Wickham. How just what? Nah, sorry, you've made me nervous, my brother. I'm not
let
used
me
to
ask
it.
you. Let me ask you guys. So I wish it was some of my friends. I joked about this when you invited me to come on the show. I was got all excited and promoted it a little bit, and then I joked around and said I was taking a red eye to England, and a few of my friends thought I was serious, and they were saying, "Oh, you got to go here, you got to go there," and so I thought that was kind of funny. But that would be the only thing that would make this better is if I was actually there with you three. We could talk for a little bit and then go out and do a little paranormal investigating, which would be cool.
Oh,
I had planned on coming out. I have ancestry deeply entrenched in the UK.
wow.
Um, and so I had a trip planned to Ireland, Scotland, and the UK right before the pandemic. It
Oh,
was going to be this beautiful 10-day trip out there, and I was going to even go see my family castle, Whittington Castle in Shropshire. And it then the pandemic happened, and that just took like the whole tour industry and flipped it on its head. Well, 2 or 3 years later, it got canceled, and then 2 or 3 years later go by, and then my wife and I just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary, and we thought, you know what? And we just now started talking again about going. We decided, I know it's a few years off. We decided that would be a great trip for our 25th wedding anniversary. So I'll just say that right now, it's going to happen. But if I come
When
there
you come
into
over.
England, the three of us have to hook up.
Oh, you know we
Oh,
will, mate.
definitely.
We'll 100% will. I'll definitely be there, and when will definitely be there. That's without a
Oh,
doubt.
definitely.
Oh, I
Want to say
it's
hi to
it's a
Nina
big dream
Roberts?
of mine. Big dream of mine, and I hope to. I even joke around with the wife about maybe I would. I'm an American and I love it here, born and raised. But the world is crazy nowadays, and I'm not so crazy about America. I love America still, but I'm not as crazy about it as I once was. And I've had this calling to come back to England, to my roots, and I would love to. I joke around. My wife is related to Mary Queen of Scots, and
Oh,
so I thought, but she does not like the cold.
yeah.
So that's
It's
the
not
We'll
problem.
cold.
let this one then.
But I would like to retire, and I'm only a few years away from legitimate retirement age. I thought about retiring to England. And maybe you guys can tell me if I'm out of my mind, if that's a good or bad idea, or
The
what.
thing is, mate, to be totally honest to you, us English people want to get to America, and by the sound of it, Americans want to get to England. And
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Hi,
Sorry, mate.
everyone.
Just saying hello to people. There's Emma. Emma Sanderson runs our LSS Scotland. She does a really good, fantastic job over there. She's really good. She promotes Power Unity like unbelievable. You can see it's in her heart as well. It's fantastic to see. Same with Mikey.
Yeah.
Nina Roberts, who was on as well. She's one of LSS Psychic, and Power Unity comes like fourth for her as well. She likes, she's full of love. She's full of, what I mean, like to get out there and everything. She's fantastic. I'm
So
just
you guys do Halloween. Is Halloween was that? I don't know. I thought it was an American tradition, but I know that it's steeped in Celtic
It's
heritage too.
it
What do
starts
they do
in
that big there in England? Is Halloween big?
it's a Celtic tradition, and before it was called Halloween, it was called All Hallows Eve. And when it was called All Hallows Eve, that's when back in the days, people like they used to call them witches. They used to come together to like have a party. It's basically a turn of a year sort of thing. Like we have a New Year's Eve. It was like very sort of like turn of a year. Am I right, Wendy?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
our new year.
I bet I surprised you still, Wendy, that I know a lot in it. So, but yeah,
It's big here too, but recently it's died off a lot.
I think with the American Halloween, we've taken a lot of your American things and brought them here.
I've
Like,
found that a lot of American traditions are coming over here now.
yeah, with the pumpkins, we never used to have that. It used to be turnips we used to carve.
That's
And
right.
I don't know how anybody started that because they're so rock solid and you wouldn't have any hands left afterwards. But
I was sorry about this. I need to correct myself. What I said was wrong. Nina Roberts has said it's a pagan ritual. It's a pagan thing where the veil between spirits and us is at the thinnest, and it's to celebrate our ancestors.
yeah, but it's also celebrates the beginning of another year as well.
Okay.
What about
So I got it right.
soul cakes? Do you guys see anybody practice the soul cakes, the passing out of soul cakes anymore? Or is that a long gone tradition?
To be totally honest, I'm not going to lie. I honestly don't know what you're on about.
Um, I don't know a whole lot about it too, but back in the day, I understand that it was a tradition that people went from house to house with these little cakes that they bought, where there was a lot of prayers and blessings into the food, and they kind of offered it up to the lost souls, the wandering souls, and they would put these cakes out, like food for the ghosts, if
The
you will.
ghosts,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
But
and I wanted to do that one year. The wife told me no. She thought everybody already thinks you're the weirdo in the neighborhood. Don't do it. But I wanted to do that one year. I downloaded a recipe for them, and I was going to cook a big batch of them and go around the neighborhood and hand out food. But my wife talked me out of it.
yeah,
um, Nina, she said it sounds like the Scottish hogmanay.
hogmanay.
Yeah, but when people go around different houses, like offering a drink.
That no, it's not actually a drink, Nina. It's a piece of coal. A
Oh,
Scots person goes round to each house offering a piece of coal because it's like to wish you wealth, happiness,
ah.
and everything like that. Yeah.
See, my mum used to do something like
Obviously,
that every
there's
year
drink
on New Year's Eve.
involved.
My mum used to do something like that every year on New Year's Eve. What it was is that she used to have a piece of coal, a piece of silver, a piece of wood, and something else. And it was to bring the new year in. So, for example, the money would, the coin would equal wealth, the wood would
Yeah,
equal warmth. I think there was a little bit of food or something in there, which means like you don't go hungry for the year. Stuff like that. It's like different traditions and stuff like that.
yeah. The drink, come on, we're Scottish. There's always whiskey somewhere.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have this bottle of Glenfiddich
Oh,
sitting on top of
Oh,
my fridge for since I stopped drinking. I used to be a raging when I met my wife, and this is over 20 years ago, I was a raging alcoholic and drug addict. And when I stopped drinking, that was one bottle that I didn't get to it before I stopped. And so I kind of leave it up on top of the fridge. If I have a good friend come over that I know still likes good scotch, I will offer that. But not very many people come to my house because I live in a haunted house. But that's a reminder to me of back in the day when I had no willpower over. Uh, that's all I would drink would be scotch, scotch, and more scotch. And I was a bit of a connoisseur, if you will, of the scotch. But one day I woke up and I just asked God. Everybody reaches out to me all the time, a lot of drug addicts and alcoholics, and they want to know how to stop. And it's all about faith and believing. And true story, I just asked God, I said, I'm about as low as I can go here. You know that I need your help. I don't want to drink anymore and I don't want to do any more drugs.
hmm.
And years went by, and one day I just finally realized it had been years since I had had a drink or did any cocaine or smoked any pot or anything. And there you have it. That's my. If anybody wants to know how to quit, that might be watching, whether you're addicted or you think it's a habit gone bad. It's easy. It's just willpower and belief and having faith. But oh my gosh, I miss Scotch.
Yeah, so
I
do I.
really miss Scotch, and I have a lot of Scottish friends, and they even when they ask me to come over to visit, they hide the Scotch because they don't want to tempt me because they know
I will
they
take you on a trail of Scottish whiskey when you come over. There we go.
It's not
Oh my gosh.
Hey, I don't drink either, so
I think maybe that's a
I'll
little
go
bit of
with
a
you
good
two.
pair.
So I'll go with you two, and I'll have one on one hand, one on the other, and I'll be the one that does the drinking.
There you go. You let us know how it tastes and how it smells and how you feel,
What
and
about that? I'll
we'll
tell
and
you.
you can
we'll
have a
watch.
hangover.
We'll make sure you get home okay, Martin. But we'll watch out for you. But
That would be pretty cool.
that's back in the day.
One of my viewers, he said, can she ask you, like, what drew you to working with spirits?
I don't know if it was so much drug me into that, or if it was just always as far back as I can remember. I remember being a very small child and seeing spirit, and I didn't know that that's what they were at the time. And the only person I could confide in was my mom, and so I would tell her that I'm seeing these people. I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but I remember when I remember there were times where I would see some people, and I just thought they were people, and so whatever it was about them didn't scare me. And then there were some that I saw that for some reason I was frightened of. So when I talked to my mother about it, I remember when we used to take naps together. I was the kind of kid that bounced 24/7, bouncing off the walls,
Well, a
and
bit
so
like
we would have
shots of you
yeah,
thing.
she would have night like nap time to kind of part of the time of the day where she could get a little rest. Maybe it would calm me down a little bit. And I remember she used to say, "Okay, now when we take a nap, I'm going to grab a hold of your leg, and you grab a handful of my hair, and you just hold on and don't let go, and none of the people that you see that scare you will be able to take you away." And that stuck with me. But then when I was old enough to understand what was happening, she just told me, "Listen, you're seeing ghosts, and they're nothing to be afraid of. They're just people that don't have a body any longer. And if you see them, they're appearing to you for a reason. One, because you have a gift and they know you can see them, but they either want to give you a message or they need your help with something. And if you're not so scared that you can ask what is it of me that you need, or do you have a message for me, then ask that of them. And if you can't help them, tell them. Um, and if you don't want them appearing to you, then ask them not to do that anymore, that it scares you. But then she told me there will be some that you don't want to talk with, and you'll know which ones those are. And so then it just, the years went on. I had my first up close and personal one-on-one, if you will, encounter with a spirit, spending the night at my sister's house when they were in college. They were babysitting me while my parents went out on a date night. And from then on, I just got the real ghost busting bug. And but back then, people thought it was weird. My friends thought it was very weird, so I did it by myself because I couldn't confide in them. I went a lot of years that I wish I could get back and
Yeah,
have been honest with a lot of my friends about that, being passionate about that. But
that
back
was
then, I
that
couldn't
was
do
one
it.
of my questions, whether you could integrate both when you were younger.
I couldn't because I knew then. How I knew, I don't know, but I knew then that if I had told my friends that I could interact with spirits, and I like to go out ghost hunting, and we didn't call it ghost hunting then. I don't know what we called it back then. Um, I I think I would have probably, the few friends that I had that didn't already think I was crazy, I felt I would probably have lost and wouldn't have had the many friends that I did have.
And what would happen if you saw something and you were out with your friends? Would you say to them,
No.
no?
No, because I knew that most of my friends would just freak out. And
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
so
nice that you have that support because as I grew up myself, I didn't have it. And it's like people used to, if I said it to my mum would be like, nah, it's all right, no, just imagining it or whatever. But it's like everything that I was saying to her, it was coming right, it was coming true. And it's like, well, mum, how can I be putting it on if like it's happening?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
how
I
can
was.
how can this spirit be communicating with me when I'm telling you what they look like and I don't know and I don't know them? You know what I mean? So, I never had that encouragement. I never had that support, as in what you're saying that you
I
had.
didn't either.
You didn't as well, Wendy.
No,
So,
I've had
pretty,
this all my life,
it's a pretty,
and
sorry, it's much of a black, pretty much of a blessing for you to have that support and like,
absolutely. But
you,
no, she was the only one. Everybody else, and I know my older sisters. I have two older sisters and a younger brother, and I know they're all gifted to one level or another, and they're all believers in life after death and spirits and all that. But uh, they kept it very much on the down low. And my mother even said that it would probably be best if I didn't share that. She supported me. She said, I'll always be here for you if you have an issue or want to talk, but you probably want to not go about advertising
mm,
about these things. And so maybe she was right.
but then I think everything that you do in your life will lead you on the path that you're going to be going on. So, for example, everything that you've done and since you've been a kid as well has led you to doing the jobs that you are doing today. And you
Absolutely.
said earlier about your addictions and stuff like that, because of that experience that you've been in there, it's okay going to somebody that's not had the experience, but because you've had the experience as well, it's a lot better for somebody to be able to approach you and you having a better understanding than somebody that doesn't and going, yeah, but and it's like, but you don't know the feelings, you don't know what it's like to be addicted to something, you don't know what it's like to be able to see spirits when you're a kid. You know what I mean? So everything that you've done has led you on the correct path is where you are today.
And it's I think it's funny, but my mother used to joke with me when I was growing up, what do you want to be when you grow up? And dumb kid, I would always say things like, well, I either want to be a policeman or a fireman or maybe a pro football player. And she would joke around and say, you should be, think about being a priest. And I would just think that was the funniest thing, that my mother's elevator was working but didn't go to the top floor. And I
Mm.
was like, my mother's a bit of a whack job. And it's funny how life, what happens, and I never thought that I would be on the path that I am on today. And it was probably when I was introduced to my wife on a blind date, and instantly I realized that we knew each other from a past life, and that's why we reconnected. And I also knew right away she had a passion for the paranormal too. She's very
Right.
sensitive, very gifted, psychically gifted sensitively. So I knew then that this was all meant to be. And so then she's a survivor of an extreme demonic attack.
Mm.
We went and worked a case, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing at the time. I wasn't on the path of the clergy,
Okay.
and we used a Ouija board. And I'm not knocking Ouija boards; I don't use them anymore. But we used a Ouija board on this case, and I know that we didn't know what we were doing. So we inadvertently got an attachment that came home with us, and it took up residence here in the house for about 2 months. And my wife was the primary target of this entity. So she came under attack. It took me about 8 weeks to get the thing out of here. I had to reach out to the paranormal community, and God bless the paranormal community with all the drama that there is in that field. I was introduced to my then mentor, who's now retired, but she taught me. She was an exorcist. She taught me how to get this thing out of the house, but it came at a very high cost. My wife was left with three very rare forms of cancer, and she
Ooh.
wasn't expected to survive. So I even had to leave the field for a few years just to concentrate on helping her fight for her life. But it was during that time that it just all the everything just fell right into place with me getting involved in becoming clergy, and going on to doing what I'm doing today. So it's, I don't know if it was already all written in the in the cards before all of this. I suspect much of it was, but
But
I realize now it was all meant to be.
it's like Emma Sanderson, who runs my LSS Scotland. She's done a thing called Road to Discovery, and this Road to Discovery is to help people to be able to learn more about themselves. So, with what you've just said as well, it like sort of coincides that sort of thing. So maybe like you might be able to help with people within that Road to Discovery and helping them to find themselves as well. Um, so how did you? So how did you become like ordained? Like you became a reverend and stuff. And how did they like? Because I know some churches they have a thing like no ghost hunters and stuff like that. No contact. You know what I mean?
Oh
And
yeah.
so how did they feel about that? And you approaching the, you being who you are today.
Well, I'm going to start by saying this. I got a kick out of when you first posted the banner to have me on the show. I had never been called a paranormal vicar before. So my wife's also a minister in the Lutheran faith. I'm Catholic, but she got a good laugh at that. And she goes, "You know what a paranormal vicar is?" And she said, "It's usually a priest who's attached to a chapel, attached to a larger church, and it's usually Episcopalian." She goes, "You didn't change faiths on me, did you?" I go, "No." So we both got a good laugh about that. But for all the true paranormal vicars out there, um, that I just wanted them to know that I'm not a paranormal vicar, but I
No,
thought that was, I had
no.
never been called that before. I thought it was cool, very cool. But what happened was my mentor, who had helped me fight this whatever was in my home here attacking my wife, helped me get it out of here. She was an ordained exorcist in the Catholic faith. First woman to be done to, in like, I want to say 1,000 years in the Catholic Church to be ordained an
Wow.
exorcist. So she, when we were all done, she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and she said, uh, "You really took to this, and you're really good at this, and I think you should consider continuing your training." And I didn't know that they'd heard Agape Christian University and the Worldwide Society of Exorcists, or actually then it was the American Society of Exorcists. I didn't know they had a training course. So she talked me into taking the training course, and I went on to become ordained. Um, Now I don't talk so much about that anymore. Technically, I'm not even a reverend anymore because I'm now a seminarian in the United States Old Catholic Church.
And what's that?
So that how that happened is very interesting. Until I at least have hands laid on me and become an ordained deacon, I'm technically not even a reverend anymore. So I try not to use the title reverend. I'm just a seminarian. But what happened was, and we talked a little bit about this before we went live, I was asked to take part in a project um, recently here. And when I was on the set, I met a bishop who was in the United States Old Catholic Church. And one day, I'm sitting in my trailer, and he comes walking in there. He goes, I never do this, but something has led me into your trailer to talk to you about this." And I knew right away what it was. He said, I realize you have a pure heart, and I know that you would be a great priest. Have you ever thought about becoming a good priest, going into the seminary, going through the training, becoming a priest? Um, and if so, would you consider the United States Old Catholic Church? Well, I never told him this. I've told him, well, definitely the Holy Spirit was speaking through you, and he agrees. But I never told him that I saw my mother's face on his face. And I'm going to try not to get emotional here, but I saw my mother's face on his face, and it was her voice coming through him saying this to me. And it was just there was no answer other than yes, yes, and yes, because you know I just knew that it was meant to be. So we finished working on the project together, and we stayed in touch. And afterwards, and I just kept hearing Spirit just kept reaching out to me about that, and so I reached out to him after we were done working on the project and said, I'm ready. But you don't just jump into the seminary. There's like some interviewing process where you have to sit in front of the council of bishops, and everybody's got to interview you, and you've got to come up with there's an application, and I had to be baptized, which I was. I had to be
Yeah.
confirmed, which I was, and there's like a process there, and then I got accepted. And so, who enters the seminary at 62? I don't know, but it's not easy. I'm buried
Mhm.
now in studies, and I'm not a very good student. So it's for me it's hard, but it's a beautiful hard, because I'm passionate about learning more about uh, who I serve,
Yeah.
and it's really coming in handy. But I'm realizing now it's so humbling, because I'm realizing now how much I didn't know about my own faith, learning about the 2,000 years of Catholicism and how the United States Old Catholic Church came to be. And it's just, it's helping me in my spiritual warfare, because demonology is all a part of that training too. And it's just meant to be. So hopefully in a couple of years I'll be an ordained priest and have hands laid on me, and then
Wow.
I would imagine the real fun will start.
Well,
So,
that's it.
how did you get? Have you taken this time now to write your books as well? Because I
Well, I
believe
had the
you've
first
got,
book already out,
yeah,
and that had been out for a few years. And actually, I don't even like to take credit for that. I give credit to Spirit for that too, because that was also. I'm not a writer. I'm not Stephen King. I wasn't good. Like I said, I wasn't a good student. Who would have thought someone like me would ever write a book? So when I was hearing Spirit tell me it's time to write a book, I'm like, yeah, this is one thing I have to say, it's not going to happen. And they just kept on and kept on and kept
yeah,
on.
I
And
know
next
that
thing I know,
feeling.
I wake up one day, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. In my living room, and I'm got a notebook in front of me, and I'm writing this book. I believe totally Spirit took over and helped me write that book. And it was meant to be that I was with my wife, who's majored in English, much smarter than me, and knows how to write. So what I would do is I was actually literally writing the book in a notebook, and I would give it to her. Whatever I finished in a 2 or 3 days before I got too much ahead, I'd give it to her. She would read it, spell check it, and because she was part of most of every experience in there I'm talking about, except for the experiences when I was very young, she was part of. So she could say, "Well, you forgot to add this. I think that's interesting." And
Yeah.
oh, that is a great, yeah, that add that. She would also say, is this how you remember that happening? I remember that happening a little bit different. Then we would talk. I'm like, well, I remember it this way. Do you remember it that way? I remember it that way. So it would be astonishing for me to see how her and I could both be in the same situation but view it two very different ways. So,
Yeah.
long story short, she helped too along with Spirit. I finished the book, I got it out there. But I've worked a lot of cases. I worked mostly cases of a very dark, malevolent nature in people's homes, and I don't share a lot of that. And one, I don't like to give these entities energy, but two, it's the privacy um, that I have in wanting to protect my clients.
Yeah.
But
That's
I
what it's
had these
for.
cases bearing down on me. I needed to release them. So here again, I'm hearing these voices, and even some people that are in my field, colleagues of mine in the deliverance ministry field, were advising me, you need to get these off your back. You need to share these stories and get them off your back. And so here I find myself again. Now the first book took years to write, and it's
Hmm.
not that good. I don't think it's that good. I know people that love it. I don't think it's that good.
Well,
But
then
this
you.
other book, I telling you, next thing you know, I wake up and I'm in the middle of my living room again writing these stories down, and I finished that book in record time. I mean, my hand couldn't stop. It was
Wow.
like true spirit writing, and I finished the book like in just in months. I'm telling you, in just months.
Wow.
But it was such a release to put these stories down. And I warn people now the book's ready to go, but there's one whole chapter devoted to what we were talking about before we went live, and I don't have permission to talk about it yet. So I can't publish the book until I can publish the book. But it's sitting there with my publisher, and she checks on it me every day and go, "Have you heard anything? Can I push the button and send go yet?" And I'm like, "Not yet. I haven't heard anything yet. It's hopefully November, maybe first of 2023." But it's ready to go. But I warn people now that the second book is definitely a step up in intensity from the first book, and that there's some stories in there that I'm every book that leaves my house I will bless, and but from Amazon you might not get the book blessed. And I'm warning people now that if you're not if you're a bit squeamish, you're not into that stuff, probably shouldn't purchase it. If you are passionate about that stuff, definitely pray before, during, and after you read it. I wouldn't read it alone in the home, and I wouldn't read it at night. But
Okay.
if the book arrives to you from me, it'll come blessed. But if you buy it off of Amazon, I would take the book and get it blessed before you start reading it, because there's
It must be
uh,
quite deep for you to be able to give that message out to the viewers. It must be, you must have gone through some proper horrendous times for, you know, to have that in that book for you to be able to give that warning message out. Is there anything specific that you can state why? Why you've just given that message?
well, whenever you talk about these situations. And I don't know if you guys can see behind me here. Is my dream catcher moving? Because it just got really cold in here. I've got a dream catcher right
Can't
there
quite see
hanging.
it.
Is it moving now? It is moving. So there's no fans in here, no heater, no vents. They're all blocked off. And that's a dream catcher that was gifted to me by a chief.
Oh
I was
yeah, I
blessed
can
to
see
be
it.
invited to come out to a nearby reservation here and work a case that the holy people there were they had never encountered anything like that before, and they didn't know what to do, and so somehow they heard about me through the grapevine. They invited me out, and that never happens unless you're full blooded. And I do have some indigenous blood running in my veins, but I'm not full blooded. But that's a big honor to be invited out to a reservation to work something that spiritual, and that was gifted to me along with a beautiful smudging fan that's got like four or
Oh
five
wow.
beautiful different types of feathers on. I should have brought it in here to show you guys, but I hung that in here, and whenever it's active, that thing will start to rock or spin or rotate. And when you asked me that question, it got really cold in here, and I wanted to look and see if it
It's
was
moving.
moving. Whenever you talk about these things, it's dangerous. You never want to mention names, demonic names specifically. You never want to call out. You got to be careful what you say too. I get people that come to me all the time and go, um, Shawn, why the priesthood? Why the seminary? Why did you become a reverend? Um, too much, doing what people tell you to do, and they got hang-ups about it, and I understand that. I don't judge. But I hear people sometimes say things like, and they think it's silly to just throw it out there, I'd rather rule in hell than serve in heaven. You got to be careful saying those types of things, because
Yeah.
you never know what's floating around listening that's going to attach to you and say, oh, okay,
Okay.
I'm going to take you up on that.
Okay.
So when I don't mention any names, demonic names specifically in the book, but because you're writing that stuff down or talking about that stuff, it it stirs things up.
So
And
you
so
wouldn't advise someone that has some knowledge of the name, say to go on to a Ouija board and summon said name through the Ouija board?
I would just tell them to be very, very careful. If you know what you're doing, I don't do any personally. I never did any conjuring. I don't advise conjuring. I don't judge anybody that does. But I don't advise conjuring or uh, speaking those types of names, calling out. And I have a lot of friends that are from many, many different walks of life, many different religious belief systems, some that don't even have any religious belief system. We all love each other. We all respect each other. We all get along.
Yeah.
And they just know. And I've had many atheists come to me with issues of a demonic nature, and now all of a sudden, well, they have to believe in something, because why, you have to acknowledge
Yeah.
that there's something that's turned your life upside down and is trying to kill you and kill your family members, and you're coming to me for help. Let's first address where we're at in the belief system here, and then if you do believe, you're coming to me for help because obviously you believe in something of a much higher vibrational power of love and light, whatever that means to you, God, whatever it means to you. That's who you're going to need to help. I have no powers. That's who we need to come down and help you here.
Yeah.
So let's try and find out, you know, where I need to get you to be able to believe in that, so you can wholeheartedly have the faith that if you're able to ask for the help, that it'll come and help you. People think that I'm going to show up with a magic wand and wave my hand
Yeah.
and make it all better. But the
They
point
have
I was trying to get at was I have a lot of friends who are witches, and we all get along. Like I said, I don't judge anybody. And they will agree to me that you got to know what you're doing. And spell casting is very dangerous. And I've had some witches come to me who would agree to me that I casted a spell that went bad on me, and now I need a little help. I should have never done it. But most witches that I know are so full of love and light, and they have
Yeah.
a different belief system than me. They
yeah,
respect me, I respect them, and their belief system is just different. My indigenous friends, we sit down all the time and we say, "Do you think we pray to the same God?" We don't know. They refer to it as the Great Father. Maybe it's my God, maybe I believe that my God is the only God, but I don't know. I'm going to know one day. We're going to be having this discussion in heaven one day, and we're going to
yeah.
have a big laugh over all the things we didn't know now that we're going to know then.
So true.
But I don't know. So we're all going to know one day. But what works for me is my faith is very important to me, and whatever God it is that I pray to, He has time and time again helped me out of some bad situations personally, spiritually,
It's like,
in the
yeah,
deliverance ministry field, and so that's where I come from. But you got to be careful with these things. Be very, very careful.
It's
I
all
like I
about
said, I don't judge.
intention.
Just be careful.
yeah. It's like there's a very famous write up that's about a boy that's on the beach, and as he's sat on the beach and he's asking God for help, and he's asking God for help, and he's there, he's crying, he's in hysterics, but he's asking God for help. He's asking for God for help through his life, through his hard times in life. And as there was walking, so God came down to him and walked with him across the beach. So when they're walking across the beach, a little bit later in his life, when he got old, he turned around to God and said, why weren't you there for me? Why wasn't you there to help me?" He said, so God turned around to him and went, look back on those footsteps. When you look back on those footsteps, where he had the problems in his life, there were only one pair of footsteps, and the rest there was more. And the reason why there was one pair of footsteps is because God was carrying him through that problem time.
Yeah, you're gonna make me cry. I love that story. That was one of my father's favorite stories. I think one of my sisters took that painting. There was a painting that had that saying at the bottom of it that he had in his living room, and he loved that, and I love that story. And that is that sums it up, man. That sums it up right there.
Like I said, it's like with what you've been saying tonight and what you've been saying like through your life and your steps and your challenges that you've had as well. It shows that through those times, God has still been there for you, supporting and helping you along your path. Because if He wasn't, you wouldn't be where you are today, being able to help people and be there for people the way you are and the way you offer.
And it's
Let
good.
me let me add this real quick. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Let me add this real quick. I didn't wake up one morning and say I want to be an exorcist.
No.
And I don't advise anybody to do that. People try to take my course all the time and they go, "Am I going to learn how to be an exorcist?" I go, "No, the course is called Introduction to Spiritual Warfare, and it's just that. I'm not going to, I don't teach how to be an exorcist." And I come from the school that it's a calling. And I literally got drug into this field kicking and screaming. I didn't set out to do this, but everything happens for a reason. God has this bigger plan. But I tell people, be a paranormal investigator. If you love the paranormal and you're a believer, be a paranormal investigator, ghost hunter, ghost buster, or a diehard skeptic, and go on and be a parapsychologist if you want. But be careful with the darkness, because um, I couldn't even begin to adequately put into words and adequately describe what the demonic is like, because the level of hatred there is unlike anything that
It's horrible.
you, yeah, you can't, you just you can't
I've
even,
It's
yeah.
like there is hatred there from the demonic side because, for example, if you look back on the Bible, sorry, this is your job, not mine. Well, if you in the Bible, it said about like how Lucifer challenged a human to to kneel to him, but the human would not kneel to Lucifer because the human had a choice of three minds. Therefore, the angel shouldn't have the free choice of minds, and Lucifer got jealous of this, and this is where the big fight happened because because Lucifer was looking at humans as like they was on a pedestal when there wasn't. There was basically the reason why Lucifer had the choice that he had at the time is because he was the warrior for God at the time when it was all starting, but because of jealousy and rounding all the demons up, it caused the big war against humans, and the war is still there because that jealousy is still there because they were casted out of heaven into hell. If I'm wrong, then please correct me, Sean.
But that's I'm not going to take anything from that or add anything to that. That was beautifully said, and that pretty much sums it up. Um, uh, you're talking about an angel who was created. God created us in His image, but He also created this one fallen angel in His image. And then this angel tried to turn around and murder him, and he just became this ultimate psychotic, murdering, perverted entity that was that was able to get a legion behind him of other psychotic, murdering, perverted entities that went to war. And so now they're here among us, always have been, always will be, until the end of time. And um, people that don't make it to heaven are going to spend eternity with those fallen angels, and the rest of us won't be part of that. So you got to be very careful, because it is very real. That realm is very real, and it's just like I said, the level of hatred is just and
It's
they don't want to. Yes, of course they want to kill you, but before they kill you, they want to punish you in
Yes.
ways that you
torture.
can never imagine in your wildest dreams. The kinds of punishment and perversion and destruction of your soul you will go through before you're
And
finally killed.
and it makes it even harder when you're alone and you come up against something like that. Unfortunately, I've only seen one. I've only had one interaction with a demon, and it basically I had to go to someone for help. And myself, I mean, I'm more of an eclectic witch and more pagan, Celtic pagan, that side of things. But I went down and I kneeled in church and I prayed. And I can see how some people can go insane with that kind of torture and fight that they have when they come up against something like this, because they might not know what they're dealing with. So yeah, it's an important side that people need to know that they can come and get help.
That's it. So what does the Bible say about like paranormal investigators? Because this is something I don't know about, like people going out and communicating with the dead. What?
You know what's funny? Hey, we talked about this a little bit before the show started. Since believe me, I'm the first guy to always say I don't know anything. Um, but all the stuff that I knew before, and just being ordained through a Christian university and being a reverend, deliverance minister for many, many years before going into the seminary, um, to finally go into the Catholic seminary and then really realize how much you didn't know was overwhelming. So this is how I'll answer that question. And I talk to colleagues about this all the time. There are many in my field that don't believe in ghosts. It's either angels or demons. And that's okay. I don't judge that. That's their belief. And I'm the first one to also admit that in all the years that I've been doing paranormal investigations, I'm sure, I'm only human, I'm sure that I've been tricked many times when I thought it was just a disembodied human spirit. And in fact, it might have been, yes. And flip side of that coin, I've probably gone into many uh, hauntings, severe hauntings that appeared to be very malevolent in nature, but it was just a excuse my French, a pissed off ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's like with what you, sorry, it's like with what you do as an exorcist, doing an exorcism. It does state in the Bible that when there was a blind guy, and Jesus went to this blind guy and casted out the demon that was making him blind. So it's like a bit like, I'm not saying that you're Jesus or anything like that, but I'm saying it shows that exorcism, he did it himself, and if God made us in the form of of him, sort of thing, as in what the Bible says, then surely what you do is correct to be able to get these devils, demons away from humankind.
I am of the camp that if you're baptized Catholic and then later confirmed, and you follow that path, that Jesus gave all of those from the apostles on. He gave all of us, even you two, the ability to cast out demons.
Equal where
Now here's the
speaking tongues and stuff come as well.
here's the tricky part. It comes back down to faith again and intent.
Yeah.
If you don't, if you don't, like, I already know, 48 hours, 24, 48 hours before my phone rings and I know it's going to be a demonic case, I'm already getting the paranormal drive-bys here at the house.
Yeah, I get
Things
that.
start happening. I already know. So when that call comes, first of all, I don't even go and work the case without going to mass. First of all, going to confession, going to Mass, receiving communion, the Holy Eucharist.
No,
I try to put myself in as pure a state of grace as possible, and then I go. And I'm not ashamed to admit many cases like this I go on to, I don't know how to proceed. Sometimes my biggest worry is if there's children present or very ill people there,
Yeah.
I don't want to make it worse. I don't do any religious provocation. Just
yeah,
me showing up is provocation enough. If I for a moment, my faith never wearies, but if I for a moment think that I'm going to make it worse because I really don't know how to proceed, I back off and I contact people that are above me
that's
that
got
have been
no.
doing this longer than me, that know a lot more than me, and I ask for help all the time. Having said that, when I go into these cases, I know that if your faith isn't solid and your intent isn't there, and it can be as easy as I remember one time I was praying over the exorcist that I was assisting in this one exorcism got ill during the exorcism.
Mm,
He had to go take a break. And while I was continuing just being a prayer warrior standing there, I hadn't been given the authority laid on me. I haven't been past the
yeah,
stole and been given the authority to take authority over this exorcism yet. So I'm just a prayer warrior. But this young girl who was almost completely paralyzed in a wheelchair came out of the wheelchair because the demon had manifested through her and attacked me. For a moment, now, like I said, I'm only human. For a moment, I got mad. And my anger, that brief moment of anger, was turned against everybody in that place,
yeah.
including the child. And things got so much worse that fast, faster than that fast.
So with
And
what
I,
you're saying, that sort of moment, the best that you can associate it with would be a bit like the Exorcist movie, where that little girl was in bed and they was cursing at the vicar. The vicar was like was getting cursed at and everything like that, and then
And
he
getting hit.
angry in that, which then he ended up taking his temper out on everybody else, which then he had to be escorted out of the room because of what the demon was doing to him.
I had to be removed. We both had to be removed. We couldn't continue that day because the exorcist was ill, and what just my thought, just what I thought for that brief moment of anger was taken and used as energy,
Yeah,
and it just things got
And
really
it
worse. So
just,
we had to revene to another time. But see, you just got to be very careful. Your intent has to be pure. You have to be solid in your faith to go up to these things. And if, like I said, there's many times where if something doesn't feel right to me, I don't want to make it worse. I will graciously bow out and then call for help.
yeah,
Um,
I
yeah.
would always do that. I wouldn't go and necessarily because you're not just putting yourself at risk, you're putting everyone around you at risk, your family, friends.
well, it's
Oh, I
not.
have people take if they have children and animals especially, and my
Yeah.
day job is a veterinary technician, so I've worked with animals all my life. I will have them take their animals, even if I'm coming over to do a walkthrough, a first time walkthrough. I don't even go to the home without a phone call, an interview. I send an intake form. They fill out the form, they send it back. My wife and I, we read it, we talk. Then I will determine if I physically should go there. And if I get to that point, I already know, have a good feeling about what I'm probably up against. I'll find out children, animals. I have them take their animals to a kennel and board it for 24, 48 hours. Take the children and have them sent to other relatives or neighbors they trust that can babysit them for a couple of days. So when I go there, I don't have to worry about any of that because that distraction, that little distraction there, you're
Is
off your
enough.
game and
Yeah,
you're
just
worrying about other things. And they're always the ones that get attacked. When things go bad, they go after the children, they go after the
yeah,
animals, they go after the sick and the elderly. I worked many cases where the person being attacked in the home has autism or Down syndrome.
Yeah.
Um,
They're a lot
the
more
elderly
open.
person in the house is bedridden. it's rough, and so you have to remove the things that you know are going to come under attack or be used against you to distract you, so you're not 100% on your game.
Yeah, I totally understand that. It's like I remember going to one case, and I went to this one case. It was in Skegness, and there was a lady there called Jolly, and she kept having issues. It was a big thing. It went on TV. It was on Paranormal Lockdown UK, and it went on there. And we went to the house after this famous guy was there. Anyway, I went to his house, and as soon as you step through the house, as soon as you walk into that house, you could feel the shadow. You could. It's like it's okay. You can see the shadow, but you could feel the shadow. It was like you was walking into the whole like it was like you was walking into like
A waterfall.
yeah, basically it's like walking in something, and it's like now I know I've gone from like light, now I'm into somewhere that's very dark, and I could feel that as soon as I walked in there. um, but there was like, lucky enough, the house didn't have any children there. We didn't have anything like that, and therefore, what we did to help the children that was trapped there, like help them to progress, to progress on, and we was able to do that. But unfortunately, at the time, we did have well, she called herself a witch, and I didn't know she was a dark witch. And it was a big mistake, that was, because it just ended up feeling like it was a war between the good and the light. It was like a war between me and her, because we were sort of like trying to protect. I was trying to protect everybody that was with me.
Yeah.
You know what I
It was
mean?
a trap. It's
Yeah.
like a trap.
Well, it's like her. Her features totally changed. It's the first time I've ever seen this properly, and it was like right in front of me. But then it was just mad. It's like,
Not
but then,
me.
no, not you, Wendy. But then, if you have a look in the Bible, it clearly states that the Lord has gave you armors of defense.
Well,
Shield, the
I,
sword.
I
Sorry.
was actually looking this up, right? Because I've been interested in the Bible and how it interacts in today's society, right? Now, in Leviticus, they say, do not go for advice to people who consult the dead, yeah? And do not practice any form of magic, right? Now, this is just a personal view. It's not a view of my religion or anything. But personally, I think Jesus was a healer as well. And obviously, because I do healing and things like that, I think he was very good at being able to settle people down as well. And I think that helps a lot when it comes to religion. But this,
Absolutely.
I mean, I must admit, I wanted to go and live somewhere, and it was beautiful. It had white sands, blue seas. I got there. You weren't allowed to do washing on a Sunday. Everything had to stop on a Sunday. I wasn't allowed to go out, but my husband was allowed to go to the pub. And I wasn't allowed to go with him. And I was like, oh,
Where was it? Was this in Scotland or England?
yeah, Scotland.
Scotland.
The very top of Scotland. And it was about 20 years ago. And I was like, not staying here. But I was baptized, and I've done all the Sunday schools that you can imagine over the years. Some of them willing and some of them not so willing. I've been to church, and I feel that I've found my place with Martin, because I really do feel that there should be a lot more para unity with everybody. like with Nina, I work with the lady that was on tonight. I work with Martin, and I do believe that if we can come together, then anybody that is struggling out there will know where to come and get help. I didn't. I had to face years of ghosts or spirits coming up to me, and I didn't know what they were. And I lived in a haunted house, and it was like terrifying. But now I'm so into my not Wicca, pagan beliefs, and I will smudge your book when it comes because it's coming, and I'm definitely going to smudge it.
Well, it's like with what Wendy was just saying is about the Bible stating what she just stated about like about not communicate with people, but communicate with the dead. I do see where she's coming from on that one. So, what's your opinion about that? Being a paranormal reverend, well, it's like, because from my point of view, solely the people that are in the field, they're the ones that you should really approach, that you should be able to communicate with. What's your opinion about it?
Well, my opinion is, you know, uh, having experienced things most of my life, from as far back as I can remember, I'm just I'm of the opinion that, of course, we go on after this path of ours is over. I believe there's going to be a good place to go, and I believe there's going to be a bad place to go. I believe that
Yeah,
there is, for lack of a better term, because I don't know what other word to use, I believe there is a veil between the physical world and the spirit world. I believe that there are spirits that are able to travel back and forth through that veil,
yeah,
good spirits and bad spirits. And I
So, do you
believe,
think that people should be able to come to paranormal investigators and, like, for example, witches and stuff like that, that can communicate, that have communicated and have got knowledge of communication with the past, with people that have passed away? Or do you think that people should solely come to the church to be able to deal with any problems that they've got? It's like saying, it's like some people don't want to come to the church, but then they might feel comfortable being able to talk to a friend that is a paranormal investigator. You know what I mean? I think, oh, I've just twisted my neck. Um,
somebody,
It,
some spirit there's not, some spirit there is not agreeing with you.
at least it's not like me melting away the other night like this.
thinking,
Getting
I have, like I said, I was telling you guys earlier that I've had, it's been pretty amazing how many people have come to me over the years for help that have been from drastically different religious belief systems than
yeah,
mine. And I usually right off the bat ask them, do you belong to a church? Well, I find out what religious belief system they have in place. And the answers I've gotten back sometime have really been quite startling. And I go, do you belong to a church? Yes. Did you ask for help there first? Yes, I did, and nobody there would help me. That's why I came to you. So I do advise people first to go, if you belong to a church and you go to a church, that's where you should go for help of a spiritual nature. But many of these churches don't help. Then you have to come to somebody like me or somebody like you or Wendy, somebody involved in the paranormal field and a person that needs help of that nature. And Wendy touched base on it earlier. Is just looking for some acceptance, somebody to put their arm around them and say, "I believe you.
and
You're
everything's
not
going to be
going
okay.
crazy, and I may not be able to help you, but I believe you. I'll listen to you, and let's put our heads together and see if I can't help you, if I can get you to somebody that can help you." So if you can get help from your church, I always advise that's the best. But if you can't find help there, then but you have to be careful. If you're going to go into the paranormal community and start putting your feelers out there for some help, there's a lot of people out there that aren't like the three of us that
Oh,
don't really know what they're doing, and they're not really up to the they don't have the best intentions, and they might make things way worse. So
Yes.
you have to be careful. You have to you know it's good to take your time before you just reach out to anybody. Find out if these people have, you can find out if people have references behind their back without going to the horse themselves and asking for it from the horse's mouth. You can find out. I was thinking about reaching out to Martin Ali to help me with this ghost in my house, and this is somebody coming to Wendy to ask about you, Martin. That would be the way to go. Or Martin, somebody coming to you to ask you about Wendy. You know, um, I don't, I love you both and respect you both, but I don't really know you guys that well. If somebody
yeah,
came to me and asked me about either one of you, I would say, listen, you know what you should do? You should try to find somebody that's a lot closer to them, that know them better on a or more personal level, that can give you a true assessment of their character. Um, it's all about communication, being honest, communicating, and your intention being that of wanting to help and sending people to the right people that can help them.
That's what I've
Because you
done.
may, yeah,
That's why I created the Para family. So basically, there's always somebody, no matter what time of day it is, there's always somebody there to help. And like you said about putting your arms around them, being there, being supportive, encouraging, you know what I mean? Promoting what they're saying, like, because sometimes they don't, they've been shut down so many times that, that they feel like they can't talk. So it's like encouraging and promoting that sort of ability to be able to do that and say, you know what, come and talk to me because I am there for you. You know what I mean? And if I can't help you, we've got power family members that we can signpost you to be able to help you. You know what I mean? And it's like what you just said. It's like there are different. There are paranormal teams out there. They buy themselves a K2 meter, a voice box, and they think, "Yep, I'm a paranormal investigator now." I would say nobody's an expert within the paranormal field,
yeah,
but
I
that's got
agree.
knowledge within the paranormal field.
And I
yeah,
think you have to be very careful as well that you don't meet someone that's got a lot of pride, a lot of ego, and they're looking for fame.
Because they'll
Because
use the victim to
they
be,
will, yeah,
you
you
know,
need someone that's, sorry, I'm really passionate about this. You just need someone who will sit and listen to them, even over a cup of tea, so
yeah,
to make it completely normal. And I think that's what's
absolutely,
needed more.
absolutely, yeah. You're absolutely right. It's a shame that I think we're making a big comeback. I think there's going to be a big comeback for the paranormal community, and more people like us, more and
We're
more people like
trying.
us will come to the surface, like the cream will rise.
yeah,
um, and I think more and more people that are just don't know what they're doing, full of themselves, looking for you know uh, to better themselves, to advance themselves, and use paranormal cases as stepping stones to get where they need to go. I believe more and more of those people will be weeded out, but it starts first with what you're trying to do, Martin, with the Para Unity family. And
Yeah.
you asked me if I wanted to be a part of that before the show started, and I'm excited. I'll do what I can to help, and excited to be a part of that. And that's what it's all about.
it's like I wanted to say thank you for joining us. It's like, but like you say, it's like if somebody comes towards LSS and they have a strong belief in Christianity, I'll be able to say, right, so I might not be able to help you up on this level, but we've got Saul that might be able to help you. And then if you
Absolutely.
and you'll be able to point him in the right direction. It's like I've got LSS situated all over the world. I've said I've got them in Netherlands, I've got them in UK, I've got them in USA, Scotland, Australia, and the reason why I've done all that is because there's got to be somebody there, and there's enough times when people want to speak, but yet there's nobody to listen. There's some
Yeah,
times when you need somebody to be there to support you, but there's nobody there to support you. You know, there's times when you want to do something and you're doing really good. And it doesn't have to be in the paranormal, it can be outside the paranormal. And you just need that bit of encouragement. But yet there's people that don't have that. And this is what the Power Family is about. Yes, we do a lot for the paranormal community, but I also do a lot outside the paranormal community. I do different charities and stuff like that. Because Power Unity for me is two things really. Para is the paranormal part, so me doing a bit for the paranormal world, but then the unity is the Mazer part, where basically we're trying to unify everybody together so everybody can work on the same level and nobody's above, nobody's below, everybody is equal.
yeah, definitely. And I think from my point of view, because I do services with online spiritualist churches, I always think that if you can help that one person that needed to be talked to that day, it's a step forward. But we need more unity in the fact that there's not a lot in the spiritual side of things, the para unity side of it. So we need to try and get everyone together and on board, I think.
Yeah,
That's the goal for me.
it's like, in all fairness, the way that I look at the Power Unity family and the Power Unity is basically it's like an anti-bullying thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
people being there for each other, supporting each other, encouraging each other, and most importantly is to be there for one each other. Again, going back to what you just said about putting an arm around that person and being there.
And I think you have, when they're at their lowest, you have to stand in and be
Yes.
their guardian, so to speak, so that
And
you're,
it also comes in handy to you can just take the listening approach. Many people will come to you that really they believe. Well, I've had my fair share of people that I call attention seekers, that they're not really experiencing a haunting, but they reach out to me and they say that they are, and they're wanting me to come over and do a paranormal investigation at their home. Why me? I don't know, but they do that because they just need why they need the attention. I'm not sure. But then there's people that aren't haunted but believe they are because they may be suffering from some type of
Like,
emotional
stress.
distress,
Yeah.
yeah.
psychological issues. That's on my intake form too. And many people will lie about that. I will ask people all the time, has anybody in your immediate family or you or in your um, relatively immediate ancestry ever been diagnosed with a mental illness or on any medication for that, clinically diagnosed, or have you been clinically diagnosed with a mental illness? Many times they are, and they will lie to me, and I will find out later. And it's nothing, I don't get mad. I learned not to get mad, but it's very disappointing. I'm saying if you would have been honest with me about in the very beginning, I would have approached this in a completely different way, and perhaps by now things would be a lot better.
and
Um,
and
so you
sometimes,
just never know. People, they're not in, like Martin. You said they're not don't got any paranormal issues going on, whether they believe it or not, or they're just using it as an excuse to get somebody like you to come over and just
But
listen
sometimes
to them
somebody,
talk, and that you're helping.
that's
You're
it.
helping, and
It's,
and
it's a
you
helpful
never
ear.
know, take the
and
first
if you
step.
realize that something many times I'm not like I said I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. Many times in the middle of these cases, I realize that's what's happening, and I will figure out a way to somehow introduce and direct that person to a psychologist or a psychiatrist if they're
Yeah.
not already they already don't have somebody on board in their life. that will help them with their issues, because I realize that's not my gig. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to beat them over the head with it and say, you're a crazy person. Why'd you call me? I will in my and I'm terrible at it sometimes, but I will do my best to kind of, without them knowing that that's what I'm doing. I've been known to invite a psychologist or psychiatrist on my dime to come with me on my next walkthrough of this place, knowing
Mm.
that there's no ghost there, knowing that I'm going to introduce these two, and the psychiatrist knows that too, but they'll come in under the guise
Illusion sort of thing.
of they are they are going to take part in the paranormal investigator. I won't say they're an investigator or they're a ghost hunter or a ghostbuster, but this is a person that I know who's also going to come with me and take part of this paranormal investigation. And the person has no clue this person is going to show up and be analyzing them while we're going
Really,
through another walkthrough. And the next thing I know, I've introduced them, they're talking. This trained person knows how to get this person to let their guard down and to open up
Yeah.
to them. And then
yeah.
they start working together, and I gracefully and quietly bow out of the situation, and beautiful things have happened. And it was never paranormal to begin with.
But it was that cry for help that
Yeah.
they've cried out for everybody else. Nobody else listened, but he was able to approach you, which you did listen.
Yeah.
And you knew what you needed to do to be able to do that, which, that's what LSS stand for as well, to be able to be that listening ear, that supporter, you know what I mean?
And
And
you two just happen to live in the most haunted, the most paranormally active country on the planet. Lancashire, I heard, has their over and above haunts. You guys are
Oh
famous
yeah.
for. Here, tell me if I'm right or wrong here. The UK. Okay, so we have in Ireland. It's much more. It's very witchy Celtic-y over there. You got Scotland is notorious for the rattling chains ghosts, and in the UK, and now I know that all of them have these spirits too, but the UK, I talked to a lot of friends who experience the headless ghosts. Why there's so many headless ghosts? I don't know. It's because of back in the day, a lot of heads got lopped off all the time.
Yeah.
But in Scotland, ghosts are very poltergeistish,
Yeah.
physical and poltergeistish, and in Ireland, it's very the ghosts there are very. You got to be
Laid
careful of
back.
banshees and the elementals and uh, and that more of a more of a witchy type. I talk to a lot of Irish people that say you never, if you're driving down a road and you see a weird old woman on the side of the road on her knees picking grass up, don't drive past her, because if she looks at you, you get eye to eye contact, she's already picked up the illness from somebody and she's going to pass the illness on to you. Have you heard
Ooh,
that?
no, I
I
haven't.
talk to Irish people that won't, if you're driving down a road, these are like a doctor or a teacher, people who are educated, who are still in their background deeply steeped
Superstition.
in that
Yeah.
superstitious. And who am I to say that that stuff doesn't happen? But they will tell you to this day, if I see an old woman on the side of a road and I don't know her, and she seems to be oddly waiting for people, not hitchhiking, but oddly waiting for people to come by, and especially if she's on her knees and she's doing something with the ground, the dirt or the grass or something, they will stop and they'll turn around, and that's not an easy thing to do in Ireland, because maybe that's the only road to get to their home. But they will do that because a lot of these old villages have the village witch, who does for all the people in that village what the three of us do for people that live near us that know of us to come to us for help. They
Yeah.
go to the witch. Sometimes these witches are
Like,
are
over the
are
world.
totally friendly. Sometimes they have a more malevolent intent.
Tends to
Um,
have my coffee or not.
and they will pass that. They will go and they will take that illness off a person. Now the person is cured of this incurable disease. But now the witch is holding on to this illness. She has to pass it on. And there's some type of spell they will do on you as you pass them on the road if they get eye to eye contact. Now you go home, and now all of a sudden you come down with this debilitating illness that you don't know where it came from. So
Yeah.
I find that the hauntings there are much more of a elemental, mysterious,
Oh, you get
darker.
elemental in Scotland as well. You get your kelpies, your water kelpies, all
Yeah.
these different types of things. And yeah, we're very lucky. I mean, I've got 4 houses here, and then a little village just down from me, and that's where I live. And in that we have a black dog at the churchyard, and an old man who's obviously got a little bit tipsy at the pub walking home, hundreds of years ago, and he still walks the road where we live.
Mm.
So
You see, you
Yeah,
get a
you
lot of
guys
stories
live.
like this over in Japan, and like it's not just here in the UK. You get it all over the world. You get it in India. You get it in Japan. Is also known for cases of like people walking alongside roads. Just not necessarily the lady, but for example, the headless running man. That's been seen quite a few times. And I think it can also be just ways that spirits, it must take a lot of energy for a spirit to be able to manifest themselves. So it's like, can they only manifest to that point? You know what I
or,
mean? So
or is it like the stone tape theory where it's replaying the most traumatic time, and it happens to be in that spot, and we see the replay of it? It doesn't necessarily mean an interactive ghost,
Yeah.
but
They
one
here
that's
they refer to that as residual.
yeah,
residual. Sorry, I've
I,
got
to be honest with you, I'm on the fence with residual. I won't say that I buy into it or I don't buy into it. I don't know. I worked a case here once where this woman, this mansion had a bowling alley. It used to have a um, a bomb shelter underneath it, and then eventually they turned the bomb shelter into a bowling alley.
yeah.
But this woman was seen walking up one of the bowling alleys, one of the alleys you roll the ball down, through this area they turned into a spa, up this secret staircase that would come through just like castles over where you guys are. I'd come through this bookcase that would open up into a little bar, and then she would walk through this ballroom and end up going into this area that they ended up changing into a place where you went into the mansion to get your hair cut or your
Ah,
pedicure or manicure. And so I suspected it was the woman who had died in the home that built the home.
hmm.
And so I went down and I'm walking. My wife's at the other end of the bowling alley, and I'm walking. I went all the way down. I'm walking back through this alley, and I hear what I thought was my wife walking behind me. So I stopped to turn around to ask her. I thought she was up at the other end of the bowling alley. I
Okay.
turn around and I come face with this, and I absolutely was 100% sure this was a woman who was in the home already that I didn't know was there, or had gotten into the home through there was a door that led through a staircase that came out into the yard, the backyard of this bomb shelter. So I thought
So
maybe it was a
a
woman,
full
a neighbor that got
manifestation.
in there. But then I realized that she wasn't alive. But we had eye to eye contact for what felt like a minute, was probably about 10 seconds. But we stared at each other for a while. And it wasn't until I moved out of her way that she continued to walk. And I followed her on that whole path to the end of the bowling alley, across the spa. My wife saw her. I walked her behind the stairs through. She walked right through the wall, but I knew to push on the wall to go through into the bar. I lost her for a moment. I started taking some photos in the ballroom, and I caught her. There was these big pillars in the ballroom that are mirrored, and I caught her reflection in one of the mirrors going into that room where people got their hair done and their fingernails done and
Yeah.
their toenails done. Um, so I thought to myself, all along I was thinking that was residual till I experienced her and she actually stopped and waited for me to get out of her way before she continued to walk.
Obviously, that was an intelligent spirit as well. Then, you
So
know
I
what I
don't
mean?
know. I'm on the fence about the whole residual thing, but it could be possible this traumatic imprint on the fabric, the
Mm,
tap. They say the
Yeah.
tapestry of life, whatever that is,
yeah,
the
yeah.
the tapestry ribbon of life. They imprint on it, and you see it replay over. But like I said, I don't know. I haven't experienced that yet, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
You're not saying it's not right, but you're just not saying, it doesn't happen, sort of thing. So I do get that.
yeah, very interesting. But your country, wow. And here it's a lot of. We have a lot of ghosts here, sure. Like you said, Martin, it's all over the world. But here, there's a lot of uh, some of my most interesting and violent hauntings of just non-human disembodied spirits are like on former Indian land, indigenous land,
Mm, yeah.
um, things of that nature. And like I said, and in your country, you've got a lot of your countrymen still hanging around. And
Yeah.
I talk to so many English people that say, yeah, or they see, if they don't see the headless ghost, they may see the head of that ghost, another
Mm,
apparition. Um, and I talk to a lot of people in your country that say there's many layers of hauntings at some locations where
Yeah.
the ghost on the first floor know that there's ghosts on the fourth floor, but they don't like each other, so they don't communicate. And the ghost on the first floor will say, "Be careful of that ghost on the fourth floor," or you might get a ghost on the fourth floor talking bad about the ghost on the
mm.
first floor. I find that amazing, and I get people here all the
I
time that
find that
have ghosts
interesting.
that fight. They actually get, if things pick up in their house, it's because the ghosts are fighting or arguing with one another. They could care less that you're there or not, but the ghosts are not getting along. Um, I find that all so fascinating, and sometimes I go into these cases and just try to get the ghosts to settle down and get along because the people are there like, I don't want to kick them out because I think that that's going to make them mad too, unless you know how to do that, Rev. But sometimes I just get the ghosts to acknowledge that, do you want to go through eternity fighting like
Yeah.
this?
Mm.
Um, one of you needs to move on or both of you needs to move on. You belong to the ages now. You're dead. You know you're dead. Maybe you don't know you're dead, but guess what? You're dead. If you're gonna stay, it's cool, but the family doesn't want you scaring them any longer. And stop fighting.
Well,
Stop
yeah.
fighting.
Yeah. It
And
makes it a bit
sometimes that
easier.
helps. Sometimes it doesn't help. I don't know. It's like I said, I'm still learning.
That's it. We're going to bring the chat to a close because possibly we'll be able to
Okay.
on another time. It's been absolutely fantastic for you to come
Yeah.
on and your message and share your knowledge within the paranormal world. And we would like to know a lot more about you in the future, and it'd be nice to bring you back on again. Um,
Anytime.
we would like you to do, if possible, is share your links about your books, and therefore I'll be able to share it in every group that Alice is connected with, so we can help you to promote your book out there. So that'd be absolutely great if you could do that for us.
Absolutely. I'll send you whatever I can, and I'll also post anything that I can grab off of you guys and what you're about and post them on my pages. And anytime anybody
Definitely
from
what
the
to
UK
do.
reaches out to me, I'm going to say, why didn't you reach out to Wendy and Martin first? I'll throw them your way and since you're out there, and anything I can do to help, reach out anytime. And I'll try to get you guys on my show too. I know the time difference weird. I mean, I got one show on a Monday night, which is 5 p.m. here, which is like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning on a Tuesday for you. My Friday show's at 2, which would be, I think, 10 p.m.
That's
on a
fine.
Friday night for you guys. So I might get, if you guys want to come on my Friday show, I'll have you guys on and
I'll be able to
we'll
do
have
it
a
if
good
it's on a
time.
Friday night, but I won't be able to do it on a weekday because I work in my day, so I
Me
don't want,
too.
you
Me
know what
too.
I mean? So it's just like trying to. A Friday would be better for us, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But yeah, that'd be absolutely fantastic. I also want to say thank you for joining the family.
You got it, brother.
I will be adding you to like everything that LSS connected with, so you can see with your own eyes like how LSS does work and how they support and encourage, promote, and also be there for each other.
You
So,
got it, brother.
just want to say thank you again, and thank you to all of you
Brilliant.
for what.
Have a very happy Halloween weekend, and I love and respect you both. And it was a pleasure to be here.